Everyone, welcome back to our Accounting 210. In this video, we want to review chapter 11 and then look at Smart Accounting Lab, the multiple choice questions. For the problem one, we have a separate video for that one. So let's get started. Chapter 11 talking about standard costs and the variance. The basic idea is we carry similar logic from chapter 9, chapter 10. We focus on one unit, right? So for one unit, we say it's called standard cost. For one unit, it's called standard cost. And the example from textbook is based on the standard. The iPhone, the Apple Watch should be this much, because you have the direct material, direct labor, variable manufacturing overhead, and then fixed manufacturing overhead, the standard. In my mind, I take the standard as a manual, as the perfect conditions. But in the reality, it doesn't really always go with the standard. So you will have the difference, which is called as the variance. In chapter 11, we focus on 4 items. As I said, all the manufacturing costs, right? The first 3 are variable costs. So they follow similar logic. The last one is fixed manufacturing overhead cost, and then it's a little bit different. So your job is to focus on this 4-item calculation and interpretation of direct material, direct labor, and then also the sentence of fixed manufacturing overhead volume variance. Okay, before we go to do the calculation, I want to just put my notes here, right? So first one, we talk about what is standard cost. So we said you add direct material, direct labor, variable manufacturing overhead, and then fixed manufacturing overhead. I believe that's the first learning objective. Second, we talk about direct material, the variance, right? From chapter 9, chapter 10, we said you always have actual here, and then you have flexible budget here, you have the master budget there, and then we said this difference is called a flexible budget variance, this difference is called volume variance, and then we say this main difference is called a static budget variance. This is a flexible budget variance, this is static budget variance. So in chapter 11, we said, now we want to break down this fixed flexible budget variance to 2 small pieces. We want to know, hey, it's due from different quantity or different price. So we said for direct material, we said we break it actual, always this is the quantity, this is dollar amount, and then actual standard, and then standard. So this code is called the price variance. This one is called the quantity variance, right? So the sum of these 2 is called flexible budget variance. Make sure you know calculation, make sure you know interpretation, especially how do you get the standard quantity you have to use. And then second part, we learned about direct labor. We follow similar idea. We said actual, standard, and standard. But this is called as rate variance, and this is called efficiency variance, right? But the total is still the flexible budget variance. Think about the interpretation. And then the 4th learning objective, we talk about some concepts, especially advantage and disadvantage of the standard cost. So read textbook, make sure you get the right multiple choice. Learning objective 5, we go to variable manufacturing overhead. We said it's still actual, and then actual, standard, and then standard. So we call this as the variable manufacturing overhead rate variance. We call this as variable manufacturing overhead efficiency variance. And I said do not worry too much about interpretation for this item. Last part, we talk about fixed manufacturing overhead. This is different. So we have the actual, but we have a budget, right? We have actual, we have budget, and then we have a standard. We call this one as a budget variance. We call this one as a volume variance. And then I said, how do you interpret this? So if it's favorable, that means you produce the more units. So your actual units, your units is more than your budget units, right? So that means given the same fixed manufacturing overhead, like the manufacturing department rent, you produced 10,000 units, then the budget, which is 8,000, you used the fixed manufacturing overhead very efficiently, so you have a higher volume. Okay, so make sure you understand this one for the multiple choice part. Okay, so now I'm going to do the multiple choice with you. I don't know how many questions we have, so let's look at multiple choice. Let's look at this one. Okay, so I'm going to look at this one. Put it here. Oh, you will be testing. Wow. Okay, 12 multiple choices. The first one is a calculation. Let's look at it. Look at it. Okay. This one said was asking about direct material quantity variance. Okay. So we're going to look at this one. Direct material quantity variance. Okay, I always put the actual, standard, the quantity will be this part. So you need actual quantity, standard price, standard quantity, standard price. Direct material standard, 5 pound per unit at this much pound. Okay, but one of its product, okay, finish it, okay. Direct material flexible budget variance. Okay, actual direct material used, actual finished goods produced. Okay, asking about, okay, so actual direct material we used is 32,000 pounds. Standard said 1 pound is 0.41, right? And the standard quantity should be we produced 27,000, and each one we should use 5 pounds. And then we said we carry the same 41 cents. Okay, so I think that's it. Okay, so I do the calculation. Okay, so you have different ways to do calculation. I just do calculation. I just use this. So 27 times 5, 135. This is a big number. Minus 32. Okay, and then time 0.41. So it will be 4223, 4230. Favorable, right? This is favorable. I'm right. Yeah, I think I'm right. Okay, so I have no idea why they give. I shouldn't say I have no idea. I shouldn't say that, but I believe they give you extra information. You know, they give you extra information just to pick the one you really need. They also told you the total flexible budget variance. The total flexible budget variance is 9,000 unfavorable. So if this is the case, if I ask you one more step, right? If I ask you one more step, I ask you, hey, instead of asking the quantity variance, I ask you what is the price variance. You should be able to get it. You said, Professor, how do I get it? So if overall is 9,000 unfavorable, and this part is 42,230 favorable, then you should be able to get this part, right? So this part will be this part plus this favorable is 9,000 unfavorable. So this price variance has to be 42 to 30 plus 9,000. So this one has to be 51,000. So the price variance has to be 51,230 unfavorable. So this unfavorable plus this favorable equals 9,000 unfavorable. Okay, I hope you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, read a textbook, read your notes, or email me. Next one, you can see we have a lot of calculation. I like doing that with my students. So let's get started for the next one. Asking about variable manufacturing overhead rate variance, right? So asking about that. Okay, so let's look at the question. Okay, variable manufacturing overhead rate variance. So that is actual, and actual standard. This gives me the rate variance. I look at all the data I need, use especially in manufacturing on top of that, the variable manufacturing. On the base of machine hours, okay, now we know it's based on machine hour. Budgeted 0.7 machine hour, budget 7 per unit allocate variable rate at the rate of $2. So your standard is $2 for 1 machine hour. Last year you manufactured this used. So you actually used 120,000. You actually used 120,000. Okay, current actual variable over cost. Okay, so your total, this one is already told you is 168,000. So your actual is total 168, and then we can calculate the actual standard. Okay, is 120 times 2 gives me 240 minus 168. Your actual is lower than the budget, so you have a favorable. This gives you 72,000 favorable. Okay, 72,000 favorable, 72,000 favorable. Any question with this one? Okay, next one, if you don't mind, I'll go to the next one. We have a lot of calculation. Okay, favorable direct labor efficiency variance might indicate you have a favorable efficiency. That means higher skills were used that perform the task faster than. I think that's the right answer. Higher skill worker will use the task. No, you have favorable. That means you are very efficient, right? You are very efficient, so you finish your task faster than expected. You have higher skilled workers. Okay, as I say, I keep telling you, I put this, just as an example. In your exam, you will not have same concept question as those practice. So I put a favorable direct labor efficiency. I can ask you many things. First, I change very one word. I say, hey, unfavorable. Answer will be different. Or I change, instead of efficiency variance, I ask about rate variance. Instead of asking labor, I asking about material. So just give you some idea how you will be tested. It doesn't mean you will have this question. Okay. Next one. Direct material price variance. Direct material price variance. Tell manager how much total variance is due to paying higher or lower price than I expect for the direct. I think that's right. I think that's right. Okay. Again, right? Concept question. I'll give you some idea. You have to read that paragraph at least. You have to at least read that. I ask you direct material here. I may ask you direct labor in the exam. Sorry, I want to put next one. Next one. Okay, next one. Let's do some number together. Let's see. Okay. Asking about how much is direct labor efficiency variance. Direct labor efficiency. So actual standard. The actual cost of direct labor per hour is actual. We don't need that one, right? We use standard, and then standard cost of direct labor is 14. Okay, so this is 14. This is 14. Direct labor hour allowed per finished unit is 0.25 hour. During the current year, finished were produced using. Okay, so actual direct labor hour is 2,900, and then standard is we finished 5,300. Each one is 0.25 hour. So if you do many times, you will kind of get the pattern. You know how to do this calculation. Okay, so now 5,300 times 0.25 equals, based on standard, you should use 1,325, but actually use 2,900. Wow, it's a big unfavorable, right? You used more than double. So minus 29. This and then time 14. This is the way I do it. So you have an unfavorable of a big number, right? unfavorable. Unfavorable 22025. Okay, 220, unfavorable. Right? So you have a big unfavorable. I don't know why. You need to ask whom. The production supervisor. Next one. If the actual number of units produced is less than the number budgeted to produce, then fixed overhead. Okay. So if your actual is less, you will have an unfavorable. Your fixed overhead volume will be unfavorable. Okay. Next one. Okay, let's see this one. Employee rate is higher in the city which company has a factory. The company finds that they are able to pay new employee at lower wage than when the employee was lower a year ago was the following years. Okay, so you pay lower rate than the standard, right? Because because it's easier to get people. You pay lower rate, so it will be related with your rate variance, and you will have a favorable. So you will have a direct labor rate. You will affect your direct labor rate, right? So this is you cannot memorize. Okay, so let me ask you also. I said, hey, last year the country had a harvest of corn flour. Because of that, which variance will be affected? You will affect your direct material price variance, right? Think about those things. You have to understand the logic. You have to understand the story. Next one. Next one. Which variance is directly impacted if a worker drops the raw material? Okay, drops the raw material. A material must be discarded. So you kind of wasted your material. You wasted it. So you have to use more material, and then this will affect your efficient direct material quantity, right? Direct material quantity. You have to use more quantity direct material because you wasted some. Okay, this one, 9, 10, 11, 12, we have 4 questions. Oh, so many numbers. Asking about variable manufacturing overhead efficiency. So variable manufacturing overhead efficiency variance. Efficiency is actual standard and the standard. Okay, efficiency standard. You some manufacturing these. Okay, you have all these. Standard direct labor. Let's see. You design and manufacture this and this. Only did for this. Okay. Your standard labor. I don't really know how to do that. Standard direct labor hour. Standard variable overhead. Okay. So it's based on things you allocate based on direct labor hour. Okay. So our allocation is based on direct labor hour. We need to find the actual standard. Actual and the standard, okay. Actual cost, we don't worry. Actual hour, we need to find the actual hour is 3,250. Standard cost is $6. Okay, standard cost. Standard cost is $6. Okay. So we said that this is standard cost is $6, and then our standard quantity is we produced 1,300 units, and each one we need to use 5 direct labor hours. That's it. So if you do this, you will find 1,300 times 5. So based on the standard, you have to use 6,500 direct labor, but you only use the half of it. So you will have a favorable, right? You will have a favorable result. Then we times 6, we will have 19,500 favorable. We will have 19,000 favorable. Okay. So you can say they give you a lot of extra information. Don't be confused by that. Focus on actual standard. That's it. Okay, focus on what you need. Next one, asking about direct material price variance. So price variance will be actual standard. So let's look at this one. Direct material standard 6 pounds. Okay, 6 pounds at this actual standard purchase, actually material purchase. So we purchase 39,000. As I say, do me a favor when you put there. Actual price paid is 0.65 for 1 pound. Standard said is 0.43. So you definitely have an unfavorable, right? For standard said is 43 cents, but you paid 65 cents. So each one you paid 21 more cents. That's not good. So we have to do the calculation. You know it's unfavorable, but how much unfavorable? 22 cents times 39,000. So you have 8,085.80 unfavorable. Okay, next one. Asking about what? Said direct labor rate. Okay, direct labor rate. Okay, actual standard. Also actual standard. Let's say actual cost of direct labor is 20. Okay, and then standard cost is 11. Standard cost is 11. Direct allowed for this, don't worry. Okay, you actually use the 3,000. Okay, so you actually use the 3,000. Okay, that's it. You actually use the 3,000. So actual is higher than the standard, right? Standard said just to pay them 11, but you had to pay them 20. So you definitely have an unfavorable. And then 3,000 times 9 is 27,000 unfavorable. That will be your rate variance. Okay. Last one. Okay, last one said a favorable direct labor price variance and unfavorable direct material quantity variance might indicating which of the following. This is very similar with a textbook example. Remember, we said you have a favorable price variance, but you have an unfavorable quantity variance. And what can be the possible reasons? I'll leave this question to you. I think it's a good question. So I'll leave this to you. I think you can say from this multiple choice, you practice a lot of different formats to do the calculation. And then the problem part also part is calculation, part is interpretation. So focus on this part. I also provide more practice for you to master the material. Let me know if you have any question. Once you finish chapter 11, I want you to go back to chapter 9, 10, and 11, and then make your own notes. Try to understand the logic. Variance is a very good logic to compare your actual with your budget. I want all of you to have a favorable variance in the exam. You thought you will get 90, but you will get 100, right? You will have 10 points favorable results. Okay, let me know if you have any question. I see you in the next chapter. Bye.